What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Another, and actually a final Gauntlet Stage B cast for Cause Monarchy. This is the last qualification match from our penultimate chance to qualify into the battlement stage. Gauntlet Stage C is already well underway and will be concluding in a few short days. But I'll bring you the action. I always do. Of course, we do have the battlements stage coming up, not this coming weekend as I record this, but the next one, the 21st and 22nd of June, will hold a lovely amount of action there for the battlement stage. But we need to decide who our last 5 participants are. We already qualified Sausage over Grass Eater in the previous best of 5 that was cast on this channel, and now we go to an interesting one, JujiK, our random representative. He has rolled Zerg for this first game. He is our silver-pink Zerg in the top right. And down here, scouting towards the bottom right, originating from the bottom left, it is GodWheat. He seems to be... Ooh, this is a tough one. Eggshell Blue? Eggshell Blue Zerg. He has been the revelation of the tournament, and I know that he's a good Christian man, so I'm sure he'll appreciate that title, that label. But it's worth pointing out because this is a man who really just kind of popped in. Maybe he wasn't even going to sign up in the first place. I don't know, and I forget exactly how he signed up, but I'm sure he can remind us of his lore in the comment section or whatever. But he's been around, and around StarCraft for a lot longer than he's been around for Cause Monarchy. I'll tell you that much. But it's another Canadian player. I know JujiK isn't Canadian, but if this was like GodWheat versus Rainaril, man, what a Canadian standoff that would be. And you know what? For a chance to face off against none other than Hit'em our reigning Canadian tyrant. I'm not talking about Trudeau. I will point out that that is technically an opportunity here if GodWheat ends up qualifying into the battlements phase. So he has scouted JujiK, who has gone for that pool before Larvosk and has some Zethicors out around the map, just kind of looking around, seeing what he can do. I'm sure that JujiK did clock that Drilleth, but he's not bothering to concern himself with it right now. Wants to take it as expand. This is actually Czech Stealer, by the way. This map is a port of Kickback. It has received updates that mostly concern 12 and 6 o'clock. I'll come over those if, it pops up in the first place. Unfortunately, those Zets are getting chewed up a little bit by the Quasilisks, so there's no hope for any actual damage there. But the scouting is confirmed. He sees the second Larvosk, and now here it is, the Droleth, putting down some action there. Now, does JujiK notice it is the question. I think, honestly, even if it finishes, the Zets can come in and kill it. You actually don't need to pull workers here, but will JujiK think about that? Because the Zets are already well on their way. A Quas flock pushing in. Very exciting stuff there, because we already are going to see that early aggro. Yeah, okay, you can see now. Yeah, the Zets arrive as those Droleths hatch, so it wasn't necessary. Good on GodWheat to cancel it. Not only do you get a little bit of money back, but he also gets the worker back. As long as the structure is not actively gestating into an upgrade, it will give you your worker back. It's a little quirk of the mechanic, and I won't pretend that I foresaw that that's how the code would work, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, I'm keeping that 100%. That's really cool. Now, here's a problem. Zorkish Shroud down here for JujiK, but does he have anything to defend against these quads? I think he's going to be able to hold just fine. He did end up queuing up a couple of quads, but he is kind of getting overwhelmed here. I feel like maybe the workers needed to come out as a response. He has no units being made right now, instead going purely for the Zethicors. In response, he's going to lose a couple of workers. I think if he had pulled the workers, drilled down over here, that would have been an opportunity. Even now, he's just going to go ahead and burrow to avoid the pain, and, well, stepping on them, that's quite painful. GodWheat would know. Yeah, this is going to be a lot of worker damage, though. And JujiK now down by double, or I guess half. He's got half the worker count of his opponent, who is also making a Zerkish Shroud, who also has that extra larva production courtesy of... I guess they have identical larva production, but, more centralized. Feels like GodWheat should be able to press this advantage. He's played a lot of ZVZ. JujiK was actually his first opponent in the tournament, if I'm remembering correctly. And so that ends up being a funny matchup there. Let me go ahead and pull up the gauntlet bracket here. Yeah, it was a 2-0 in favor of GodWheat, who ended up defeating JujiK, despite GodWheat obviously being a much reduced seed, just on the behalf of him being a newcomer. You give the newcomers what's the quote? God gives his best warriors his toughest challenges, or something like that. Most faithful warriors, something like that. Anyway, and so that's basically what I'm doing. I'm not that I'm God, wink. But, Godweed is over here like, oh, I'm new. I'll sign up. And I'm like, oh, I haven't seen you play. Seat 11. See ya. I'm going entirely off of, like, what do I know people think about this guy, So we'll see. We'll see. There was another person who didn't end up showing up to any games, unfortunately, Ziosani, who played the tutorial and then was like, hey, I barely beat the tutorial. I'll sign up for the tournament. I was like, you're going in at the last seed, buddy. You say that to me, it's the last seed. But, it's still an opportunity to play and to do things, right? So, hey. There's that. Now, the Lakers have come out for JujiK just in time to defend versus Godweed, who, yes, in this rematch. JujiK, by the way, rolled Zerg both games of the best of 3 that were played earlier. Now in a best of 5, rolled Zerg again. The luck does not bear out to be on his side. I appreciate him going random, though. I think that's really, it's a classy move, in my opinion. Adding a lot of extra Kagrants. We're going to see what happens there with those. I'm assuming they're going to be Larvosks. I feel like he needs some static defense, though, to hold this push. We already have double Lavaleth out here, so no hope in blinding Godweed as far as the anti-Lakers play is concerned. Oh, here comes the first opening salvo, but he has no detection himself, so even though he pops one of them, he needs to get on top of these Lakers so he can actually deal with them. And look at that! The splash damage more than enough. Well, we don't have that many units coming in as a backstab afterwards, but oh yeah, JujiK did not make any military units. He's already gonna Jeej as soon as the Lakers arrive. I don't know, that might have almost been a little bit premature, but it's double attacks back to back where he doesn't actually have the gusto to, any units in the background there to actually attack. He had to make quas. He didn't have any detection at the time. No preempt there, and didn't expect perhaps the Lakers counter. Because when the attack came in, I don't think any Zoryu Shrouds actually showed. So he didn't know that the Lakers was out there. Anyway, that's sort of what I'm gathering here. But that is game number 1 of our best of 5. We're going to go into game number 2. And JujiK, well, he drops his own map pick of Check Stealer. Godweed has his map pick, which is Near Impact. So we're going there for map number 2. Let's see if JujiK can avoid the Z Mirror. Yeah, all right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are once again with JujiK taking on Godweed. The latter of the two players has been up 1-0 in the series, needs to win 2 more in order to qualify to Battlements on his first ever attempt. It's kind of wild. Did need the lower bracket, of course, but can you really, count that against him when he's up against Cannoli, the Zerg sniper? Come on now. Come on now. Godweed, in the bottom right here, he is our... Is this just regular red? I think it's red. Yeah, just red. It's not vivid red. It's a little bit too dark. And JujiK has rolled Zerg again. So he is our silver pink Zerg in the top left. Now, this is his map. So, picking a JujiK map against JujiK should, in theory, give JujiK more power, because that's like double JujiK, and so he should play twice as good. But we'll see if that ends up happening. It looks like he's going to go hatch first. Taking a page out of Cannoli's book. Let's see how this one pairs out with him. Of course, that will invoke additional camera hotkeys. I love to comment on that every time I... It's a little bit more natural. I can kind of cloak it, guys, when, if you ever see me, if you're a really diehard viewer and you really pay attention to Pronogo's, not just casting, but observing as well, one of the things you might ever occasionally see me doing in the middle of another point that doesn't really make any sense for me to be looking at the natural as I'm saying it, is that subtle movement is me putting the camera hotkeys down. Now, it doesn't really compute if I'm using the camera hotkeys for like an empty base, then I'm just looking at an empty base with no comment, and so it always feels awkward to me comparatively. Whereas I try to hide the motion. It's a bit silly, but I think of those kinds of things, I think of those kinds of things for you guys. For you guys. I'm thinking about the viewer experience. You don't want to be looking at the fog of war in the middle of it. No. What's going on here? Look, Drolets are dying. Well, JujiK is going to pull away without any too big of an issue, so to speak. This is reminding me of the match that Smarty Cakes played against Godweed earlier when he was also Zerg in Gauntlet Stage B. By the way, signed up as Terran in Gauntlet Stage C. So played as Protoss twice in the Tribunal Stage and Gauntlet Stage A, and now has played every single race. It's the more prolonged exposure version of what JujiK is doing. And JujiK is just being random. He's played as Terran, he's played as Protoss, and of course he's played a lot of games as Zerg in this tournament. I think casting-wise, I think we only showed the matches where he played as Zerg so far, because I don't think he's actually... I can't remember if did I cast one of the upper matches or something? Well, I guess he didn't feature in those because Godweed sent him down to the lower bracket nice and early. But anyway, that's some of the thoughts that I have is, poor JujiK. He's out here taking names as Terran and Protoss. He defeated P-Sense earlier in the bracket, who I was surprised to see cast down so thoroughly by Sausage, but Sausage has really been playing a lot of practice games, and so in that Peruvian head-to-head matchup earlier in the tournament, we definitely had... I want to say a good amount of interesting value there. Oh, and I'm yapping too much. Guys, you got to stop me from yapping, even though this is pre-recorded. Let's take a look at the map picks. Brainstorm is up next for our third map. If we need more maps than that, it'll be Radium and Blackwater Bastion. Notably, Kingwa Valley vetoed by JujiK. That's interesting. I wonder why he did that. He also banned his own map, Crisis Vector. Meanwhile, 4-spot maps are banned by GodWheat. He does not want those. So GodWheat's scouting Droleth gets popped by the circuits. He's probably going to be shooed away from attacking. But no, he actually wants to see if he can just push back. Problem is there's a Quaz out now for JujiK. So if this was no Quaz and it was just the circuits, absolutely this is the right move to do. And I commend GodWheat for doing it. But, you know, the Droleths will be interrupted. There's only 3 of them over here that are mining. So not really the biggest of deals. You know, JujiK kind of caught and he's waylaid in this moment because he doesn't know if there's a lot more Quaz like waiting to come on in, so he doesn't want to abandon the front gates and allow the Quaz or Zeths, even worse, to kind of move past up the ramp, right? So that's why he was staying over there and delayed his mining saturation. But that's okay because over here he's still very under strength in terms of his mineral harvesting in the main base. He's going to go for that Zorka's Shroud, which is about the same time as GodWheat's. Again, they're very much in sync there, though GodWheat notably not expanding in the previous match. And so, yeah, I am a little bit, you know, I don't think we've seen Decapitation yet. I just want to point that out. We have not seen a Decapitation match yet. So I kind of feel like, man, it would be really epic if we could get that map played. I almost forget that it's even in the event pool because I don't think it's been played yet. At least not in any matches I've seen. Maybe it's been played in a match that I didn't cast, right? Entirely possible. Entirely possible. In fact, if I quickly go ahead and check out the other Gauntlet Stage matches here on Liquipedia, they have a helpful little bit where they show me, yeah, no Decapitation in Gauntlet Stage A, no Decapitation in Gauntlet Stage B, and so far, looks like it has been played once in Gauntlet Stage C. I might have to track that game down. Didn't know that. So there you go. A little bit of intel there. We do, of course, also have the Tribunal stage played. I'll quickly check that. Looks like it was played once there as well in a Protoss mirror. Probably was that Kasuga Smarty? I don't know. Who knows? I don't think so. I don't think it was there because I would have cast that. So yeah, with all that said, it's going to be an interesting time to see some of those 4-spot maps in play. But a lot of the Gauntlet stage players, they do not want to play it. They refuse. Now, all of JujiK's Quaz are going to get backstabbed by those Zets, and now we're seeing, you know, there's that common knowledge of like, well, Quaz are way better than Zethicors are. Well, if you don't micro them, actually Zethicors are really, really good into the unmicroed Quaz, right? Or if they have like a positional advantage where you have to like walk past them instead of shooting them. So no orb walking and no ability to orb walk because they already got the jump on you while you were on a regular old M move, or as it's Q move, if the default hotkeys for for Cosmonarchy. We use the grid layout. But yeah, definitely something that I'm thinking about there is like, damn, all those Quaz just ended up getting blown to smithereens there. But there's still plenty. And it looks like setting up for a double drop here is GodWheat. Rotating over a bunch of workers preemptively. Love that workers split. I mean, he does have really, really good mineral saturation here. GodWheat playing pretty well, honestly, on the mechanical side, the macro mechanical side. I know he's floating a lot of money, but I just mean like in terms of his steps there. Now his Hydras do catch this Ovaleth moving out. There's nothing in there that was purely for scouting. I don't know if JujiK clocked the position of these two Ovaleths. Does he prepare for the drop? He's got Leikas out. Looks like those will be earmarked for the front gates, or maybe he could just end up moving out on an attack, which I do think would be pretty bad because we're talking about Ovaleths that transport, you know, what is this? This is 2 Zeths and 5 Hydras. So the 5 Hydra attack force inside the main base could do a lot of damage. It could pick off the Larvosks, especially with the Zeth help. I might even be able to cancel this hatch depending on how soon they strike. So keep that in mind. GodWheat just setting up his Zorka's Shroud now. Gone for the Hydra then earlier on. And it looks like he's going to bypass all of the juicy production targets and instead just try to attack workers, which I feel like is a bit of a missed opportunity personally, but I think you could absolutely just pick that Larvosk. Even with just the Hydras. So he's going to get 1 worker. Deny a little bit of mining time. Looks like his... there's something happened over there. I don't know what it was, but... Didn't right-click the Ovaleth. I mean, I can't wait. If one of the, like, the really old-school Brood War diehards that cast a lot of games, like, obviously the dream would be Artosis, even though I would really suffer from a lot of Mario Erotica in my streams forevermore. But, you know, beyond that, I feel like the... You know, even if, like, Gypsy or... who am I thinking of? Eon Zerg, you know, obviously Nyoken, a big one, but I think he's inactive now. Shout out Nyoken, legend. If one of those guys started to play or you know, cast this, like every time I say Ovaleth, they'd be like, what the fuck is that unit though? So, you know, they're never going to call it by the new names, guys. I got to be honest with you. There's not one time will you hear Artosis say Lakizalisk, except for when he first tries to pronounce it and then says, it's a lurker, though. So that's it. That's all you got, buddy. That's all you got. So we do have a third base coming down here for GodWheat. So now taking the lead in the account of just base count, but also worker count, I'm pretty sure is going to start shooting up in his favor pretty soon. We take a look at the allocation of workers. I do think that JujiK is fine, although he's not harvesting any Vespene from his natural, so might be problematic for scaling. We have a little bit of units in that Ovaleth, which certainly could be unloaded at some point, but God, we might not need them, making a lot of Lakes. So this is a much more even game than the first one. The early attacks did not do nearly as much damage and kind of put Godweed in a bit of an awkward position, but he is going to be able to macro his way out of this position really easily. You know, just drop the third base. You got enough little outcrops here to protect potential bases, which I really like the feint that this move is, right? An Ovaleth is got units in there. Do not let that die for free. But this position over here, which also has some units in that Ovaleth, by the way, why these hot air balloons are full of Zerg? What happened here? It kind of makes you think, oh, there's a base over there, right? And so I wonder if JujiK will kind of fall for that little trick there. He's got a lot of Lakes, but remember that the Ovaleths are here, and this could be a great surround coming in with the Iziricors from the top rope. Where do the Lakes spines end up going? That's the key detail here. Kind of cycling back, plenty of units on all sides. Turns out if Zerg surround other Zerg, is it going to be enough? The Lakes spines are trying to do so much work, but the Hydras are not being targeted. I think JujiK needed to focus them down, and okay, he does. Maybe he can stabilize. We got more coming in from the east. Oh, God, he's trying his best here. I don't know if he's going to be able to actually finish the job, but it looks like the Lakes are still alive. But no, now that all the units are on top of each other, coming in from every which way, the Lakes are going to be overwhelmed. And wow, what a tight little position, especially with reinforcements here. JujiK's attack not really doing much damage. And when you have a situation where you're not doing eco damage, you're just kind of wiping the army. Okay, in a non-mirror matchup, that tends to favor Zerg. They can remax their army a lot faster usually. Obviously, some positions have to be considered. The other problem, though, is that who's developing their economy more, right? That's the other question. And right now, we've got Godweed over here with his third, and, you know, it's not actually mining right now. But JujiK, he's going to have to be responding to this army in the middle. He was on attack move as opposed to his opponent. He has no detection here, though. It looks like his own Lake is... Oh, man, they're just getting shredded. He didn't borrow most of them. Oh, my God. Well, I mean, the Zorias are doing all right. Oh, I actually really like that Lakes positioning. Man, that was good. Hey, the Rilla Rokors kill a Lakes. Dude, there's so many units in those Ovaleths. Really need to hit the C key, dude. Unload. Gorgor starting to come out. Oh, man. I have a feeling that the Gorgs are going to start finding some worker kills very soon. That's just a hunch. It's just a thought process. But he actually isn't making more of them. He's only got the one Zethrakor still occupying the 9 o'clock position. And now we've got a lot of workers over here for JujiK. How's it looking on this side? A lot of gas income here for Godweed. He's not going for tier 2 yet, though. Has 1,000 minerals in the bank, so maybe that's why he's thinking I need more Vespene. Feels like maybe he could end up dropping hatches. Yeah, it looks like he's going to do just that. Generally, when I see a lot of minerals, no gas, I'm going to go for some hatches just so that I can spend down the money a little bit more, because eventually I'm going to get to the point where, okay, I don't have any Vespene for what I want for a tech or whatever, but at least I can flood the map with Zethrakors or something to that effect and just kind of occupy an area, and develop my position further, start thinking about an extra base. Also, lets you draw up bases much faster once they are up, so your arming time for a base is much shorter. JujiK taking the economic lead, though, and a bunch of his own Gorgorcors are out. Another move there. Seems very good. Personally, I still kind of feel like in ZVZ, especially when both players know that the other player has the Shroud, it definitely pays to have some forward-facing, like, Nathracors. Nathracors utterly devastate Gorgorcors. It is not even close. Like, equivalent resources, Nathracors just rip air to shreds. So, especially since the Gorgs will lose 1 armor from the Nath, so it makes it even easier for, like, Quaz to deal with them, for example. He's got his own Gorgs, though. This is the setup, right? Like, let's see if Godweed can actually make things happen with the Droleths. Also, would help to have a couple of Sprites there just to kind of dissuade camping on top of the area, but you want to put them away from the worker line so you can just reactively burrow and not lose any workers to ambient damage. Ovaleth out here detecting the Lakes and trying to run through. I don't know if that ends up working out very well. He's going after the Lakes. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. But now he has sprung the trap. Remember, there's more ground units on the way. But the big money move here is 7 Gorgs in the mineral line flying in uncontested. No burrow, no reaction. And again, you know, it's still ahead in workers is JujiK right now. So this needs to do even more damage. But it looks like it will. Where's JujiK's reaction? His Gorgs were all the way on this side. And he only now burrows his workers, but not all of them. So a lot of them end up going down to splash anyway. Going after the third base, just kind of trying to erase a bunch of workers. Now, JujiK has so much money in the bank right now. This looks like it's a devastating move. It doesn't necessarily have to be, but look, the third base getting crunched on. And all of his ground army is up here. What are you doing, JujiK? No! Those aren't flyer units. I think JujiK's army movement has been bamboozled. He found a way to use the all-army hockey in StarCraft 1's engine. I can't believe it. That is a second game for GodWheat. Well, that's a little bit of an underwhelming close to that match. I thought that it was setting up quite nicely for a macro game. And I think if JujiK had parried that, you know, I don't really know. He could have also gone for a counterattack, right? There's like a couple of things he could have done. But I do think that, you know, something Zerg players have to start thinking about, and it makes sense JujiK is not a Zerg main. He's a Protoss main playing random. But Zerg players got to start thinking about those Nathrakors versus the Gorgs. I feel like they're super, super strong. You could try to go for Skiths as well. They take a lot longer to kill them, though, I feel like. So a bit riskier, more proactive, less reactive, that kind of thing. But something to think about for our Zerg players in the Z mirror. We don't actually have so many Zergs automatically qualified into battlements yet, so I was going to say, like, oh, there's going to be a lot of ZVZ, but I actually don't know if that's true. Well, we got to stay tuned. Maybe JujiK will be able to start coming back into the series reverse sweep. Surely he can't roll Zerg again. Let's find out. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on Brainstorm for our Game 3. This could be our final game, but I am going to crack open this can to channel the JujiK comeback. Can back? I don't really know how that works. But a sponsored sip. Remember, you can donate on our coffee page if you want epic perks like being able to vote once a week on the things that I work on at least twice a week, but usually more. That's related to content. So, yeah, pretty epic. Currently, the poll is probably going to... Scozy is probably going to win out again because no surprises there, but we also have work on the single-player campaign content, co-op content like Sanctuary Lost, which I made for Mapcrap this year. And, you know, refurbishing that, updating that, etc. And then a custom game mode. So, you know, just keeping you guys up to speed, abreast of the donor options there. And I guess if you don't check the donor channel too often, then you just got reminded at minute 21 of this video. There you go. But sponsored sip as we see our maps or our game builds here, our build orders properly set up here and starting to unfurl. Now that's some good shit. JujiK has finally avoided Zerg, by the way. JujiK is Protoss in the top right, silver pink yet again. Looks like he's going for Lattice into Gateway. It will be scouted, of course, by GodWheat, who is in the bottom left. Ooh, what color is this? Is this Midnight Green? There it is, Midnight Green Zerg. I think I guessed every color right this series so far. Maybe I should hope that JujiK gets owned so that my color guessing ratio doesn't go down. But you know what? I'm confident. I think JujiK will win this game because he's not Zerg. Then he'll roll Zerg in the next game and die. But I'll still guess the colors right, guys. I promise. So double gate after the Lattice. First unit, a Manifold. That is not what I expected. I'm going to be straight with you guys. I had no idea that it was going to be a Manifold of all things. Now, looking at it right now... Double Larvosk for GodWheat, pretty standard stuff. We'll see if he wants to go for a faster Hydrith compared to his Zorkas, or if he wants to stick to the same build. I don't know how much practice he has versus Protoss. This is the first time I'm seeing him play anything other than ZVZ. Again, just to refresh your guys' sort of understandings, or perhaps for anybody there who didn't actually see how things went here. But... So GodWheat goes against JujiK, who rolls Zerg 2 games, then goes against Smarty Cakes, who switched to Zerg 2-0 for GodWheat, then goes into Cannoli, okay, loses 3-0, but that's another Zerg. Now drops into the lower qualification. This is the first not ZVZ that GodWheat has had the opportunity to play in a tournament setting, like ever. You know, this being his first time playing in a competitive tournament for Cosmonarchy. So, you know, just got to point that out there. As far as ZVZ goes, as far as Cosmonarchy goes, you know, ZVZ has been GodWheat's matchup. That's how he's applied his trade. So, you know, if he was going to become a Zerg sniper, I mean, he had the hardest path to fight, especially against Cannoli, who's kind of like that already. Pretty wild stuff. Pretty wild stuff. You know, he's only missing a tournament match against Grass Eater at this point, you know, as far as like active Zergs. I know Blade Hollow was also switching to Zerg in this Gauntlet stage, which is funny to me. So yeah, and of course Lucy. I guess he didn't fight against Lucy in a tournament setting yet. Deranged Zerg games, I'm sure those would be. Well, JujiK is moving out with a mixture of Lattice and Gateway units versus pure Quas. I think with the one Zealot, it's going to do a lot of heavy lifting, especially as the extra Zealot comes in. It goes after the Manifold, but it's not going to be able to finish the job. All those Quas starting to fall, and a free Sim with only 3 points of damage. That's 97 extra HP. I can't believe it. Now, JujiK is kind of getting stuck at the funnel. This is where all the brain cells try to get out of the storm drain there and figure out their way onto the map. So, you know, I was just thinking that, like, that's because it's Brainstorm, and then I remember JujiK always makes jokes about Protoss having one brain cell or whatever, and so, well, in theory, they should be the least affected by the brain drain on Brainstorm, but, you know, that is what it is. Now, what does Godwheat have? He is making the Hydrith. Yeah, he's got Hydrith then. This could still kind of run away with him, but the Zealots, they're getting chewed up. Those Zethra cores adding so much DPS, and there's no sustain over here with the army, and again, can't make it through the choke. Gonna have to think about wrapping around if he wants to continue the attack, but still a pretty good looking army here for JujiK. It's just something that he's gonna need to worry about is if Godwheat comes in with a boatload of Hydras, or, you know, otherwise maybe stabilizes into Bactylisks. At that point, you're gonna need different tech. So right now, definitely feeling like the Ecclesiasts could have maybe helped him out there as a support unit for the Protoss that restores lots of shields. Man, I'm sorry guys, I don't know what to make of this, but sometimes I remember really funny YouTube comments. I think it was on an Alex video, Alex Gaming. Shout out to that guy. Very much appreciate. He's responsible for expanding the horizons of many young StarCraft players by showing them Cosmonarchy, and I do appreciate that. But in fact, if anybody watching right now got started by watching Alex, or, like, you know, found Cosmonarchy through Alex's videos or whatever, definitely let me know. I'm always interested in that kind of feedback. But yeah, appreciate that guy a lot. I think on one of his videos, though, there was a guy who was like, maybe you should call the Ecclesiast the shield bearer, because, you know, then it's obvious what it does. And man, that's an insult to my soul. No, I'm going to call it the fucking Istratholeth, because that's what it is. Zerg here. If you don't even know what the Istratholeth is, you don't even know what I'm saying. I just sound deranged. That's all right. I probably sound deranged anyway. We got double Avaleth here, so we can do a drop. And Godwheat really likes this kind of strategy. If you go up against Godwheat, watch out for his drops. It's definitely a possibility that he goes for that. Bit of a mix of pool and den units there. More Hydras kind of storming through the brain drain. And yeah, we should definitely call this the brain drain, by the way, or something like that. I feel like that's a really good spot. That's a good name for that. Man, you know, in Counter-Strike, obviously they have map callouts. I've been doing this Counter-Strike casting stuff a little bit. It's been quieter, and it's going to pick back up pretty soon, I think. But, you know, for a little bit, I was just like, yeah, you know, call out the map locations. We should have that. We should definitely have that. You know, sometimes I say mid out of reflex. So, JujiK is losing a lot of workers, or going to lose a lot of workers. Yeah, like 4 of them just kind of popped at the same time. So, looks like a total of 7 workers have gone down. Very hard for Protoss to restore that in the same degree, and now he's going to see, oh, you're going to attack me. Well, he's got Hierophant, so he can tag the Avaleths there, but somehow they're dodging. Oh, that one popped, and this one didn't have anything in it. So he cleans up all the combat units, and he, you know, emergency transferred a bunch of his workers over. He probably should just send a couple back, you know, at this point, since it's not that bad, right? It's 18. You can just grab 3 of those and put them back there, but no, he's bringing all of them back. Oh God. Well, that was that's worker harassment that Godwheat didn't even do. JujiK harassed himself. Well, we have a lot more units coming on down here. We finally have some Ecclesiasts, not shield bearers. I don't see any Legionnaires, not purifiers, coming out right anytime soon for JujiK, and for good reason. They're not. I think that there might be an actual unironic opportunity if you go for something like, if you already have a bunch of gateways and you want a little bit of scouting or map control, or kind of like you know, like some kind of run by that maybe stops workers from turning into Hatcherosks at the expansion or whatever. There's something you could do with Legionnaires in the mid game, but most people don't even think about them, right? So they don't think about them at all, let alone in the mid game. So there you go. There's probably some like pretty epic combos you can do eventually, though. I feel like some of the Escosa units in team games are going to be really helpful with Legionnaires. Like you put a Legionnaire on the front line, and you teleport your Legionnaires onto a target and kind of stick to them, and then the Escosa units can jump to your Legionnaires and suddenly value. Well, value is what Godwheat's looking for. It's a secondary brain drain right now, and it looks like the treasury was mistargeted at some point by JujiK's forces. He's trying to benefit from the funnel, but I feel like the Bactylisks are going to really start to run amok. Oh, and the Izira Core's got a lot of secondary value, courtesy of charging face first into them, trying to reduce how powerful the Bactylisks are. We got reinforcing Zealots coming in. There might be a chance that JujiK can overpower this, as wild as that statement sounds. You know, Bactylisks really don't do as much damage when they're being closed up on, but look at all the Hydra reinforcements here. That's going to be a full army wipe, and I just don't know if JujiK has anything back at home. He went for Grand Library, but he has no Cantavis for Storm. He has no Ardent Authority for anything like some kind of a Cantor or a Positron stack, anything like that. His only saving grace is that the brain drain is claiming another victim. No, we can't call this one the brain drain too. What would you call this one? The brain trust, because it's a treasury? Yeah, okay. The brain trust is claiming another victim. All right, we're cooking with the names, guys. I think we got some ideas here. A single Atreus trying to stand tall. Oh, Unitary Union. JujiK gonna go for probably like Vibrance? Architect? I don't actually know what he wants right now. I feel like what he needs is like Unar or Architect so that he can try to deal damage at a range. But he has the one Cantavus. If that gets focused down by Basilisks or something, I mean, the Storm is going to be very limited in efficacy. The Acantor shots would definitely be really good here. Is it going to matter? Well, third base coming up for Godwheat. Clearing out the Eastern Brain Trust. Bunch of static defense for anti-drop makes sense, but is a pretty big investment, and it's not going to help out at the front at all. Feels like maybe one Warden would have been sufficient. Where's the reaction here? Needs to get that Storm going. Taking a long time. Oh, he goes for Hallucinate, but it's blocked by the Avaleth. And then he cycles back. He's got enough for another Storm. Putting a lot of damage down, just kind of dancing in and out of the attack range. Oh, yeah, JujiK's Brain Drain helping out a lot for those reinforcements. But look at all the Hydras. They're still at large. And the Bacillus bounces clear the Cantavus. He's only got a couple of small units. The Unitary Union, I think it may be just finished. Has nothing in. I think this is actually it. Oh, man, my sponsored sip, my can cracking was not enough to give JujiK the energy. And yeah, he starts the Vibrance and GG's. At least he got to start spending the money on it. God damn. Well, Godwheat ends up qualifying in. And that is impressive, honestly. The fact that he manages to 3-0 JujiK is like maybe not something that you'd have expected for somebody who's pretty new. Obviously, his base level of skill is, what would you say, his understanding of the RTS genre and like what you do with it and his ability to micro and stuff, that's pretty cool. It's really funny. I think he expressed interest in switching to Terran at one point. Now he is locked in, ladies and gentlemen. He is locked in as Zerg. I don't know what. Did I save over the wrong file? I 3-0'd. Okay, I put the 3 there. All right. Yeah, Godwheat is locked in as Zerg. He will not be able to switch his races. I think Shambler wanted to switch to Zerg as well, but he's locked in as Protoss. He qualified as Protoss. Godwheat qualified as Zerg. No switching. Once you qualify, you got to play with the race that you qualified as. So pretty epic, pretty epic. The one exception to that is if people want to switch races and they're from the top 4 of the previous tournament, they're totally able to. You got to switch your race before playing a qualification competition or whatever, you know, like, so that only applies if you're not top 4 in the previous event. But very cool stuff. So congratulations to Godwheat, commiserations to JujiK. Gauntlet Stage C, I'm sure we'll see JujiK there. In fact, I know we'll see JujiK there because he's, I think he's, well, I've seen him be playing the tournament matches, so I know he's active. I can't tell you with any degree of confidence if he's going to make it through. There's some pretty heavy hitter names, but let's find out, of course, together on this very channel. Stay tuned. Subscribe if you're not already. Again, you can donate on the coffee page if you want to drive further change. We got a 4th race in the works. We got all sorts of cool doohickeys coming at you. And expect a couple of updates to the tile sets as well pretty soon, because we're going to be doing some visual updates to the maps ahead of the Battlement stage, make it a really big spectacle, a grand spectacle for everybody watching at home, and of course all of the players themselves watching their armies do battle. Very lovely. GG's, we'll be back for more videos soon. Peace.